On today's Prep Rally podcast, we will recap Shiloh Christian's dominating 51-30 win against Farmington last week, and we'll take a look ahead at this week's big games, including Pulaski Academy at Greenwood in a massive 6A West contest. And welcome to this edition of the Prep Rally podcast. I'm Chip Souza, joined by Henry Apple. On your way, wearing his shirt, On Your Way, Mercy Me shirt today. There you go. Don't know what that means, Ricky Fires, but I'm staying away from Ricky. I'm staying away from Henry. He says, Mercy Me, might reach over here and smack me. So I show no mercy.
So let me explain. Mercy Me is a Christian group.
I got you.
And that's the name of the song, On Our Way.
I thought it was No Mercy, like on Cobra Kai. Strike first, strike hard, no mercy. Cobra Kai something. Leland, did you watch the series Cobra Kai on Netflix? Did you watch any of that? Or did you watch the movie Karate Kid?
I don't watch much TV.
He doesn't watch TV. Okay. Well, you know the movie. Well, actually, there's a couple of movies. Really, there's only one movie that matters, though. Was the Karate Kid. Mr. Miyagi, Daniel's son, whatever. Well, Netflix took that old movie and turned it into a Netflix series. It's like 5 or 6 seasons in which I can't remember the guy, Ralph Macchio, who's now grown, and the guy who plays Johnny Lawrence. They're all grown now and whatever, but they can't let the past go. They're still, kicking and punching each other and showing no mercy.
I do know wax on, wax off.
There you go. That's part of the same genre right there. So anyway, a little bit of a pop culture thing for you in today's show, but that's enough of that. Let's talk some football. I had a chance to go over Friday night, Ricky, into my own personal press box at Shiloh Christian. Thank you, Jeff Conaway, and the Shiloh Christian administrators for recognizing what we do and the importance of what we do as it relates to the importance of what you do. That our words that we put together are seen by thousands and thousands of people every Saturday morning and Sunday morning. Henry, you know that, thousands and thousands of people. Not tens of tens, but thousands and thousands.
And that's all across the state. And
yes.
And who knows, in outlying states, who else comes in on Saturday morning or Sunday morning and looking on our website to see what about Arkansas high school football?
That's correct. So anyway, thank you, Shiloh Christian, for recognizing the importance of that and having us just a little spot, That's all we need. A little spot with a power outlet. That's all we need.
We don't need hot dogs, and we don't need
any of that.
Hot chocolate and all that. We just need
it's nice if they have it.
To have it. Corn dogs.
No, we don't need any of that.
Yep.
Not required. But we do need electricity, and we need a little
spot.
window that we can look at. That's all. But anyway, so going back to Friday night, I was over at Shiloh Christian Champion Stadium. Ricky, big 5A West game. Still having a hard time saying that with Shiloh and Prairie Grove and that kind of thing.
Moving on up.
But moving on up. But Shiloh Christian hosted Farmington, and it was a 30-30 game at one point, Henry, 30-30. Then Eli Wisdom said, "Okay, I'm about to take this game over," and he did. The Shiloh Christian quarterback ran off for 3 touchdowns in a row, including an 89-yarder that capped the scoring at 51-30. Ricky, he had 217 yards rushing in that game. He also had 220 yards passing. Big night for Eli Wisdom. Big night for the Shiloh Christian Saints. Got that win, 51-30. Now, it's on to the next one, Ricky.
You know what? But I got to say about Eli, my goodness, 400? A lot of teams can't even get 300, 400 yards. He had 426 by himself.
437.
437 account. What an outstanding game. And this is, he's a senior. He's been a leader. Hopefully he'll get a chance to play somewhere in college. And this is when it really tests you. This time of year when you're playing for seeding, you're playing for conference championship. And for a guy like that, that's one of the reasons he was our cover boy of our preseason magazine, along with Hunter Houston.
Yeah.
So great job by Shiloh Christian. They took down a great, really good Farmington team that, they're missing their starting quarterback. But now they got to turn around and Prairie Grove.
Now, one thing about Ricky, I'm glad you mentioned that little segue on Cameron Van Zant. He was suited up Friday night.
Oh, good.
He was in uniform. They had told me before the game he wasn't going to play, but he was in uniform. There is a really good possibility he gets some snaps this week against Pea Ridge, Henry.
Yeah, and that's going to be a tune-up for next week. Yeah, tune him up for next week because Prairie Grove Farmington could loom very large, depending on what happens this week with Prairie Grove and Shiloh, because Prairie Grove and Shiloh, it's, winner take all in that game.
Yeah, this will be the
winner
conference
gets the conference the number 1 seed. If Shiloh loses, well, they're not only going to fall to number 2.
Right.
But Prairie Grove, if they fall, then the wheels could really be turning with that Farmington Prairie Grove game next week.
Right. So, and I'm glad, Henry, you mentioned that, because in the Thursday Northwest Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, you have broken down the playoff scenarios in every conference that's in our coverage area.
All right, that's impressive. People need to read that.
Yeah. Now, trust me, there is so many scenarios here. If I tried to write down every scenario, I couldn't do it. I'd have a full page.
Yeah.
So what I do, with 2 weeks left in the remaining of the regular season, I play the eternal optimist, and then I turn around and then I play the eternal pessimist.
Sounds like my wife.
I will give you every team's best case scenario and then every team's worst case scenario.
There you go.
Now,
There you go.
granted, could some of these, are they likely going to happen? Probably not, but hey, as old George Burke, the former, the late George Burke, who coached at Stuttgart, once told me, he said, boy, he says, that football ain't round, so it ain't going to bounce the way you think it's going to bounce.
There you go. So anyway, that's what's going on now in the 5A West. Big game Friday night. Shiloh Christian coming off a big win at home against Farmington, on the road against equally impressive, equally undefeated in the 5A West League, Prairie Grove, with its dynamic 1-2 punch, Connor Wetzel, Ethan Miller. They combined for 400 yards Friday night. It seems like that's a regular occurrence for them, and they'll be hard to contain. Wetzel is the fullback. Miller is the halfback. Miller's got breakaway speed. Wetzel is a bruising, powerful, raise your hand if you've ever heard this about a Prairie Grove running back before, bruising, powerful, inside runner. So they will be hard to contain no matter who they play.
That's what you call thunder and lightning.
Thunder and lightning.
You know what? Another good thing, Prairie Grove really, the community will come out and support that team. They always do that program. And, they had a history with Shiloh Christian when they were both in the 4A. They just elevated. Nothing's changed from the 5A, and that's going to be a tremendous environment Friday night.
So that's the 5A. Now, Leland, we're going to kick it to you because we understand there's going to be a little football game played at Greenwood this coming Friday night.
Friday night at Smith Robinson Stadium, Greenwood hosts Pulaski Academy. It is the most anticipated game of the regular season in the state.
In any
now,
class.
I know that Bryant and Cabot played last week, and that was number 1 versus number 2.
Right.
And we've only had 20 of such matchups in the last 40 years. So obviously that was the biggest game of the regular season, but that really was only 2 months in the making after Cabot defeated Conway.
Right.
Pulaski Academy and Greenwood Friday night, that is months in the making.
Ever since the competitive equity factor went into effect and it was an automatic that PA was going to go up to 6A, this game has been anticipated.
Yep. Well, that was step 1 when Pulaski Academy was elevated into Class 6A because of the competitive equity factor.
Right.
Step 2, and the final step of this, was really in the conference alignments when that was announced.
Right.
And Pulaski Academy was placed into the 6A West.
Right.
Because there were several schools there that could have gone the other way. But when Pulaski Academy was put into the 6A West, and then the schools got their schedules together, October the 28th was the most circled and most highlighted game of the regular season.
And Leland, it would be no surprise, and Henry either. This could be the first of 2 meetings, this season between the 2 teams. Possibility.
Very likely.
Yeah, very good, very well. But this is a big one. Both of them undefeated in conference play. Greenwood has 1 loss on the season. PA undefeated on the season at 8-0. So 7-1 Greenwood, 5-0 on the conference against 8-0, 5-0 on the conference Pulaski Academy. I tell you what, Leland, there will be a massive crowd down there Friday nights, particularly since Fort Smith Northside, Southside are both on the road this week. So you'll get a lot of Fort Smith people that'll come down that way. They'll make that little short drive, 10-mile drive down Highway 10, or they can go the back way and go through Chaffee and head down that way, and it's going to be packed. And Leland, I'm a little bit envious of you that you're going to get to see that.
Well, that's yeah, absolutely. I feel very blessed to be able to be there and cover this game because you're right. It's again, it's the biggest game going,
Yeah.
um, because of the fact that these two schools haven't played since 2009.
Right.
Of course, shortly after Greenwood was elevated in the 6A, and of course Greenwood has dominated Class 6A. Pulaski Academy has dominated 5A. These two programs have a combined 20 state championships,
There you
and
go.
that's 10 by each one,
10,
which is the
yeah.
most in the modern playoff era.
Right. Right. So
And
much
then you
history.
add to the fact that 2 years before that, Pulaski Academy lost to Greenwood in the state championship game. In a 56-55 game, which is one of the most exciting state championship
Yeah.
games ever.
Yeah.
Then you throw in, of course, the Kevin Kelly era
Yep.
of Pulaski Academy with onside kicks. They don't punt. They go for two after most touchdowns. We talk about the quirkiness of what Pulaski Academy does. And then, of course, the fact that both teams run wide open offenses. That's exciting to watch. And, we talked about the Cabot Bryant game. And in that game Friday night, there were 9 punts.
Wow.
There
That will
won't be
not- no,
9 punts in
no.
that game on Friday night
No.
between Pulaski Academy and Greenwood.
No.
Hey, Lee, and you talk about even if you're not connected to either of these schools, it's very, very interesting. Tell them who the head coach is down there at Pulaski. I think folks around Northwest Arkansas, really throughout the state, will recognize this name.
Well, absolutely. Anthony Lucas, one of the most electrifying
Yes.
receivers to ever play for the Arkansas Razorbacks. He was an assistant under Kevin Kelly for several years, and he was the one that was elevated to the head coach when Kevin Kelly decided to go into college coaching. And one of the first places, I guess probably the first place that he was able to coach his team against competition was 2 years ago in the team camp right after school was out, when he brought Pulaski Academy to Greenwood for a team camp along with Northside and several others. But I caught up with him there, and one of the first things I asked him, and it's an obvious question, is, are you going to change anything? And of course he said, why would I?
Why would I? Yeah.
So again, they onside kick. And the funny thing about this, when I was, of course, I was talking to Coach Young at Greenwood yesterday, and it's not just run up there and try to kick the ball 11 yards. It is a strategic. They have about 5 or 6 strategic onside kicks. And it's it's a very well thought out. That's a very big part of their game.
Yeah.
Is because obviously onside kicks, that's just stealing possessions. So now they're stealing possessions, and they have a field, that's 50 yards long now to score with a prolific offense. And this will be the first game this season featuring 2,000-yard quarterbacks. Hunter Houston at Greenwood's thrown for over 2,000. Kel Busby at Pulaski Academy's he's almost at 3,000. And then throw in the fact that both teams have 1,000-yard receivers with Grant Carnes at Greenwood and Jalen McKinney at Pulaski Academy. And then they both have 2 good running backs. So it's just a game that has all of the ingredients of being a big-time game to watch. Even like you said, if you're not affiliated with anybody, just a game to come watch.
It is going to be a great one. Also, we want to mention this Friday night another very, very, very big game in the 4A1 conference. Elkins coming off of a dominating win, Henry, at home against Ozark, a team that the week before had dominated an undefeated Gentry team. Okay, so Ozark beats Gentry. They come up to Elkins. Elkins beats Ozark last week. Now this week, Elkins goes to Gentry.
Yeah, and if Elkins wins, then they're going to have the number 1 seed. They've got it locked up.
Yeah.
But if Gentry wins, and let's put this out here, it's at Gentry.
It's at Gentry.
Grass.
Yeah.
All these teams now play on turf fields.
And supposed to rain a little bit
And
Friday
it's
night
supposed
too. Yeah.
It's supposed to rain Friday night. We've got grass. So if Gentry wins, this thing, the wheels will start turning.
Oh.
And it then comes to points. But something we haven't, we've been thinking Elkins, Gentry, Ozark.
Right.
But laying right there waiting to see what happens.
They're like a little coral snake, a little orange and black coral snake laying there.
Grab
it.
Because if Gentry wins this game against Ozark, and then they can beat Gentry next week, they may have a shot at the number 1 seed in this conference. So this thing's got twists and turns.
Now, and Gravitz won 5 in a row.
4 in a row in
They've won
conference
4 in a row.
play.
Conference play. There you go. So it's Gentry. You got a few. You remember back. Gentry was very much a force in the 4A1. Then they've hit a dry spell. I think they were more affected by COVID, Henry. I think than any program up here. It was Gravett affected more by it. It's taken Kelby Bohannon a little time to get it going over there, and they had some bumps in the road, some hiccups and things. But man, they are really having a great season.
Yeah, they're right now sitting at 5-3, which has been one of the more successful seasons under they haven't had a season like this since Bill Harrelson left.
Right.
Because when Bill Harrelson left.
Back in the Strelicky Licky Wiki Licky Licky days, or whatever his name was.
When they had snakes in their helmets, that's a different story.
Helmets,
but they've had some turmoil and just trying to get the ship right. And I think this year they've got it right.
They have. So big game in Gentry Friday night. So big one at Greenwood, big one at Prairie Grove, big one at Gentry. And we're in week 8. They're all big. I'm sorry, week 9. They're all big. So again, in the Thursday Northwest Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, Henry has broken down going into this week what the playoff scenarios look like going into week 9. Of course, you'll do the same thing again next week going into the final week of the regular season, when we'll be talking about a little Bentonville at Bentonville West, that kind of thing, in the 7A West. Going to be some big games there going into that final week. So it's, Ricky, a little nip in the air, had a little coolness, had a little rain, got some leaves falling. It's time.
And I tell you, Henry's 10 times smarter than me, and I've already seen it. If this happened, that, and everything, that prompted me to do my own research.
Okay.
Which I came up with just win.
Just win.
Just win.
How much time did you spend on that? Hours.
3 hours.
3 hours or so.
I had a lunch break and,
and a
had
snack
a glass.
in there.
Yeah. So I come up with just win.
Okay. Well, there you have it. Henry, you could have taken that 60-inch thing that you wrote and condensed it down to 4 words or 3 words or 2 words.
Just win.
Just
Two
win.
words.
Well, for some teams, it is just win, but some's going to have to get a little help from their friends or
we just
sometimes
win,
their
but
enemies.
you win and you win and you win. So it could be a 4-word, preview.
Nah, I'm just showing you guys really, if you want to know, before you go to game, where we setting at, what we got to do, Henry breaks it down, and I've read it, and I'm still confused.
He's wearing a vest today. Is that like from Al Davis or something, the Just Win Baby? Is that where that's kind of silver.
Yeah, and he's got a black shirt to go with it. Yeah,
and his hair's silver. Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Hey, what does that say about the rest of us when Rick Fires is the voice of reason?
There you go. There you go.
That's pretty sorry.
That's a sentence you very rarely ever say, by the way. That's rare. There you go. So, again, great games, big games coming up, playoffs coming up. We also got a couple of other little things going on, Henry, and our boy Paul Boyd's not here today. He is over at Rogers Heritage covering the 6A state volleyball tournament. That's going on. So he will have, this is day 2 today. This is Wednesday, so this is day 2. Fayetteville is, they will play this afternoon. They, of course, were the conference champions in a runaway in the 6A West. So they're playing today, and they will play through the semifinal matches on Thursday. That will get us down to the 2 finalists, and they will make the trek down the winding road, Ricky, down through Y-City, Mena,
or Highway 7. You go Highway 7.
That makes if you say Highway 7, I already get a little bit car sick.
I know.
So that's
beautiful
Henry's
time of year.
That's
though.
Henry's road.
Oh,
Highway
that's
7.
my road.
That's his road.
I've driven Highway 7 from Harrison all the way down to Arkadelphia, so I know it.
He says he can drive it blindfolded. I said that's the best way to drive it is blindfolded.
Treacherous, but if you love the fall colors like I do, it's worth it.
Yeah. So we got volleyball teams trying to get down to the championship matches on Saturday down at Bank Ozark Arena down at Hot Springs. Henry, there's a really good chance that the western part of this state, and I'm talking from Hackett to Mansfield to Greenwood to Fayetteville to whatever, Shiloh, Springdale, there's a good chance there's going to be multiple state championship trophies coming back to the western side of the state.
I think, what was it last year? 4 of them came our direction.
Yeah.
And, hey, I wouldn't be surprised it happening again.
Exactly.
It's going to be always who can put 3 good games together, or, in some instances, it's only 2 because you get a first round bye. But who put 3 good games together to get to Hot Springs, and then how do you play in that arena where it's a little different than what you're normally used to.
Yeah, and if you remember last year, it was Harbor who was the team that no one could beat, and they had dominated conference play until the championship match. And Fayetteville said, "Hey, we're here.
Well, we're here. Yeah,
we're here.
Hey, thanks for coming.
Yeah, we're here." So anyway, that's going on, and of course we have wrapped up the other fall sports. Have all been wrapped up, including the overalls for. Not all the other sports. We still got cross country, which the 6A conference meet was held yesterday, but golf has been wrapped up, tennis has been wrapped up. Now we got cross country had its conference meet yesterday. Henry, tell us about that.
Well, on the girls' side, it was a Bentonville runaway.
No doubt, no question. That's a surprise.
Yeah, led by Haley Loewe, who won the individual title. She ran it in like 18 minutes, 21 seconds. I was a little surprised because we had rain for 2 days, and I'm thinking, all right, we're fixing to see a slop house out here, and there is a certain part on the course where the runners actually have to almost make a U-turn around a tree, and I was expecting a multi-runner pile-up.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah, but the course was in great shape, ran some good times, but Bentonville's girls had 5 runners in the top 8 to run away with it. No,
wow. I would say that's pretty good.
And their 6th runner was number 9, and their 7th runner was number 10. So
wow.
And then in the boys, Bentonville also took it by a 30 to 57 margin over Bentonville. Had all 5 runners in the top 10, so they're really staging for some good things in Hot Springs next week.
That is next week, and now Henry, that will run the 6A and. What on Thursday will be?
On Thursday, we'll go 5A, then 6A, then 1A.
1A, okay.
And then on Friday, we will go 2A, 3A, and 4A.
Okay, on Friday. So it's going to be Thursday and Friday down at Oaklawn Park at Hot Springs. And I expect Ricky will be bringing home some hardware from that too.
Yeah, what an addition to Haley Loewe is. She's the transfer. Her family moved down here in Northwest Arkansas. A lot of, I think connected to Walmart. We've really got it good here with people wanting to come to Arkansas. She's the one that won the chili pepper, isn't she?
Yeah, and they just ran not this past weekend, but the weekend before. They had the Lake Hamilton Invitational, and it's sort of like a prelude that gives runners a chance to see what the Oaklawn course is like. Haley Loewe not only broke the meet record that day, she shattered it.
What grade is she in?
She's a junior.
Okay, wow.
So, yeah, if conditions are right in Hot Springs and all that, and she's running a good race, she could very well clip 18 minutes on that course.
Wow.
That's impressive for a young lady.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So we got that going on. And Leland, tell us what else is going on down in the River Valley this week.
Well, County Line Indians are off to a 4-0 start in basketball. And then also Friday night, Subiaco Academy begins the big school 8-man playoffs. There's 4 teams in it. They travel to Fountain Lake. And if they win that, they'll go on to the championship game the next weekend. Now, the 3A, they call it Class 3A, the big school 8-man football is not sanctioned as far as the state championship is concerned, but it's still important to those schools.
Sure. Yeah.
The smaller schools that are basically 1A and 2A, they'll be beginning the playoffs in 2 weeks like everybody else, and then their championship game is that first big weekend, which will include 5 state championship games this week, the first week of December, because they'll play 6A, 7A's on that Friday night, the 8-man's on that Thursday night, and then the 5A and 2A are also that weekend.
Right.
And then that next weekend, the second week of December, is the 3A and 4A.
Gotcha.
So, but still, that's a big game for Subiaco Academy on Friday night. They lost to Fountain Lake just by 1 touchdown 2 weeks ago, so that's a big game for them.
Good deal.
And why not? I've long been a long proponent of 8-man. It gives the kids something to do out
Sure.
there. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're a little bitty country school and you don't have football, you might go astray and get involved in something you shouldn't. So it's just amazing, incredibly good that we have 8-man football. So these kids, let them get on the field and show what they got.
Absolutely.
Yeah, except for that I will play the devil's advocate on this one.
Just like my wife.
Fountain Lake, a Class 4A school, playing 8-man football.
Yeah.
Right up the road from them, Hot Springs Village separates Fountain Lake from Jesseville. Jesseville's in Class 3A, and they're still playing 11-man.
Yeah.
So
I think it just, football is an uber expensive sport. I think, maybe Fountain Lake's looking at this. Maybe they got a down. Maybe this is a low number in class, right? Maybe back-to-back classes or something. And they're looking at it like, hey, we're gonna play 8-man for a couple of years, then kick it back up to 11-man. I'm not sure but Fountain Lake was a very successful 11-man program.
yeah, they are defending. They won a state championship in Class 4A not too long ago.
When I think of like Hartford, Leland can attest to this. I covered some Hartford football games. I love being down there, the scenery, the mountains, and maybe if they'd had 8-man football back in the day, maybe they could have kept the school open and just given those kids an opportunity.
Yeah, I'm from Texas, and 6-man football is a big thing there. It's just a lot of fun, and they have it. There's so many schools there that play it. There's 2 divisions too, like there is in Arkansas. There's a Division 1, Division 2 for 6-man, and I think they've changed it now where it's actually Class A is 6-man football there. But I've covered a few games, a few 85, 78 games and things like that where your box score would be a 12-inch long box score, and they're fun, and they've done. I think it was, and Leland, you might know about this too. I don't know, but I think it was Netflix or someone did a documentary on Texas 6-man football, in which they went to a bunch of little small, tiny little towns scattered out in the Texas Panhandle and that kind of thing. And these are towns that are so small, Ricky, that they back their pickups right up next to the
That's
field.
what they did at Hartford.
Yeah, back right up next to the field, and there's only stands on one side, and I don't think they have to shine their headlights on the field for the teams to play, but it's maybe one little step above that, and it's not uncommon. They might have a little 10 or 12 member band, and the football players in the band take off their shoulder pads and march with their their football pants on, and it's that's what high
fun.
school should be about. It's fun.
You know what? And it's you got to be able to play 8-man football because you miss a tackle, it teaches you to break down and tackle.
Yeah.
And if you miss a tackle, they're going to go 80 yards.
Yeah. And you got to be in uber good shape.
You got to be in good shape. Playing both ways.
Yeah. And
and this isn't the first time that Arkansas has had 8-man football.
they used to have it
They
back.
had 8-man football back in the 60s.
Yeah.
Now, it was just that District 1 up in northwest Arkansas that was playing it at that time.
Yeah.
But even back in the 30s, and Rick knows this town very well.
I thought you said he played back then. Okay.
Tyronza had a 6-man. They were one of the teams way back, 90 years ago that was playing 6-man football. So it's not the first time in Arkansas, but it is a sanctioned sport now.
Yeah, and that's great.
Glad they brought it back.
Absolutely. And we talking about fun, and Ricky, we were talking about. I was listening to Paul Feinbaum's show, and they were talking about apparently after the Tennessee Alabama game, the students stormed the field, and a young lady came up and got really right up in the face of an Alabama football player with her phone for a TikTok video, and he pushed the phone out of the way, or somehow he bumped her, or maybe swatted the phone out of the way anyway. But there were a lot of people saying, well, he had the right to do that because she got on the field, or the students got on the field, and what are your thoughts on students? After you beat the number 1 team in the country, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, they do it too much. I could see that game, but it's getting ridiculous. And I remember when I played in high school, you just get beat. You don't want, some of our friends are cheerleaders. They come out and say, "Girl, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you right now.
Just yet,
Get
huh?
out of my space."
Yeah.
So that's my feeling about, and especially now you get grabbing a camera and putting it on TikTok. I would have, and I'm not going to say anything, but no, give the players, they got to cool down, man.
Yeah.
They've been so hyped up and they've been going, and to lose a huge game like that, you got to let them get off the field and get into the locker room, and then you can go downtown and celebrate.
Yeah.
But give the players their space. My goodness.
I like the celebration part of it. That's the college, that's the college experience that you want. Your team's beat Alabama for the first time in 15 years. I love the enthusiasm of it. That's why, you're a kid. You want to experience. You want to get down and celebrate. That kind of thing. And so I get that, but you do. No matter what you do in life, you've got to recognize a person's personal space and you respect it. And so, but the way things are now with your video on your camera phone and all that, it's leading to a lot of situations like that. And I don't know, I didn't see the video of what happened. I'm just relaying what was said on the Feinbaum show. But you can, if you're in your mind, you can see a situation like this happening with a football player who's mad because her team has lost a very close game and not going to be number one anymore, and that kind of thing. And so it's one thing when you go on the field, you just have to remember where you are and what your surroundings are.
Respect
and
others, especially those football players that just been playing their hearts out for a couple hours.
And you have put yourself on their field.
Absolutely.
So that's something you got to keep in mind. Celebrate, have a great time, be a kid, enjoy that experience. Just don't forget where you are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if there's not anything else to add, I would say words of wisdom. I'm looking at Ricky. Why am I looking at him for words of wisdom?
There's nothing else. Me or the wall.
What do you got, Wall? So that will take care of today's show. And again, don't forget, big games are on the agenda for football this Friday night.
All over
the place. Take a drive down to Greenwood, catch a great game there. You can go over to I don't know if it's north, south, east, or west, Henry. I'm not good. Go down Highway 412. Take a right when you get to Billy Bob's house. Get on Highway 59. About 8 miles, you'll take a left at McDonald's and whatever. That'll get you to Gentry. That's about the best I can do there.
It's simple for me. I just get on Highway 12 from my house, and I'm there in 20 minutes.
I go on 59 north.
There you go. And if you want to go to Prairie Grove, just get on Highway 62 and take it around. Take the link. You don't have to go the Lincoln Loop. You can go right through Prairie Grove. Stop and make a phone call at the phone booth there.
Yep.
Go down, get you a burger at Frederick's, which you will not be disappointed in that. I guarantee you that.
Double cheeseburger
there. Frederick's, one of the
then
best.
Follow the Tiger Paws.
And follow the Tiger Paws over to the stadium. And Danny Absher might be mowing the field right before game time. You never know.
Absolutely.
You never know. This is high school football. This is when the best time of the year is, and got a little crisp air. Might get a little rain Friday night. It's football weather. Ricky, get us a little Frito pie, maybe a little Dr. Pepper, and man. You can go to Ruth Chris Steakhouse, or you can have your Frito pie and a Dr. Pepper. I'm taking that Frito pie and Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, and a caramel apple for me.
Absolutely. So thanks for being with us today. We'll be back next week for another episode of the Prep Rally Podcast. Until then, go team. Just win.